Hi guys, I'm Heather Makar,
And I'm Seth.
and today we're going to be talking about developing our human potential and how sometimes it takes a great deal of suffering or some kind of trauma to get it going, but maybe you want to look into that before something terrible happens so that it's a little more of a stable process and you can control it. So, what do you think, Seth? Do you think people tend to wait until it's hard times to develop themselves?
If they even do it at all, yes. Unfortunately, but whatever. It is the way it is. However, part of what we're trying to do is get people is try to inspire people and to potentially recognize the value of, you know, taking a break from engaging with the world as they're used to engaging with it and seek something out that's greater or bigger or not even or just more real than what we are currently used to experiencing.
So, what do you mean by more real?
Well, life is going on regardless of who we think we are or what our day is like or whatever is happening around us. Life is going on literally, like from the smallest thing, to the little ants and stuff that are crawling around in the dirt or the pavement or wherever somebody lives, up to the more symbiotic systems of nature that work together, up into the galaxies and the universe, all these things. That's reality of who we think we are and what our issues are or whatever we're dealing with. So that's kind of what I mean.
I mean, it makes sense because we're so much bigger than just, a singular person. But what do you think it would take for someone who's not going through a terrible trauma to question their perception of their little world? Like, what do you think it would take for average Joe working at his job to start paying attention to the dandelions and the raccoons and the breezes in the trees?
It like kind of like we opened this up. Like a lot of people will really only start asking these bigger questions and trying to seek answers, in a time of calamity because of the suffering that it induces. They want to alleviate the suffering, but for the person who isn't really suffering and just doing whatever in their day-to-day job, but has an idea that something is going on, something more is going on, and they want to be aware of that and they want to develop themselves in a way that is more than what they're currently used to, then those are the people who are going to want to start paying attention to this and really look into cultivating a greater and expanded awareness of this very thing.
So I think what I want to get into here is how growth doesn't really happen in a vacuum, and that unless you have a big trigger, it's not really going to happen. Like you can think about it, you can read a book about it on your comfortable couch with your comfortable income, but unless it causes you pain or unless it causes you enough inconvenience, you might not get into it. Like you might not even try.
Right. Or the other side of that, the even darker side of it is even if life is causing you all kinds of inconvenience and suffering and trauma and pain, a lot of people do just the opposite. Instead of seeking to understand it or alleviate it or transcend it, they become worse. They become victims. They hate, all these different things, fear, all these issues. It's his fault, it's her fault, it's their fault, it's the government, it's this, it's Hillary, it's Bernie. Like, no, it's you. It's you. You. When you finally come to the place where you take responsibility for the way you react to the world, then you begin to kind of take some of that, shed that old skin, those old beliefs, those old limiting factors that keep us in a vacuum, you know,
Yeah,
pop the bubble.
yeah, and the answer is always inside, and that's the bottom line to so many things. Like you can understand things from an intellectual perspective of why things are going on in the world, of the thousand different steps it took us to get to where we are now, but then realizing that there's only exactly one thing that you can change about the whole situation, and it's your own perspective. It's thinking, what can I do to make this better? Am I part of the problem? Is there something I can do? Even a tiny little thing. Like I was having a political discussion the other day, which it was all right because the dude and I had similar views on some things, and but it all led to what small actions can we take as individuals? Like, we can't leave it up to some political party's platform. We can't leave it up to any particular candidate. We have to take responsibility for ourselves. And I think a lot of people are challenged in getting to that point of taking the responsibility so that they can grow and share that growth. Oh, that's what it was. In his neighborhood, he started painting over the graffiti and then painting like murals because he's a mural artist. Mm-hmm. So he was painting flowers and butterflies and peppers and all kinds of really pretty things. And it started to take off. Other people in his neighborhood started covering up the graffiti and painting murals. And like, look how fast that grows. So I think people just need that little positive trigger, maybe, to get them to do a good.
Absolutely. And it's like, we don't have to take, that's the part of the problem is we don't actually have to take responsibility for it. It's just, we got to come to a point where we want to, you know, like we don't have to do anything. And that's part of the issue is because people don't really feel or they're not really aware that they have to do anything. A lot of them don't. It's so easy to fall back into complacency and just, yeah, this is who I am, this is my life, this is the way it is, and it sucks. Or, you know what, if I put my trust in doing all these things outside of me and, I think other people are going to take care of the world, other people are going to take care of my political leader. Well, guess what? You know what, like the Beatles song said, this beautiful Beatles song from Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club album, life goes on within you and without you. I think the song's called Within You, Without You. But that's just the reality. Life goes on within you and without you. It's in you. It's around you. It's everywhere. It's from right here where we're sitting right now into the furthest reaches of that which we are completely oblivious to. So to what degree do we want to acknowledge that part of ourself that really is unified and connected to all that and begin to experience it so and take that awareness and start co-creating in this world in a very basic and positive way just to start, because we can. You know, like you said, this guy was doing art. Art is beautiful. We always know the arts, anything along those lines of creativity are the beginnings of this co-creative process. You know, they say the greatest art there ever was comes from the universal mind. The greatest science comes from, like, you know, they say all of these things, that it's these people who are able to transcend themselves and not be stuck within this vacuum, this bubble of self-doubt, are the ones who are able to tap into something that is both beyond them and within them and generate solutions that we all can apply here to the world.
It's, like you're participating whether you like it or not. Like whatever you're doing with your mind, with your energy, you're part of it. Like you can't help it. There is no choice. You can't hide. You can't like have an exclusion of these things. Like, sorry, you're part of it. So giving into the doubts and the fears and the, I can't do this, these bad things are going to happen, people are going to judge me. It doesn't help anybody. It doesn't help yourself. It doesn't help the progress of humanity. It doesn't help the earth. It doesn't help anybody. So owning that, being like, I have these doubts, I have these fears, I'm really inspired and passionate about this thing and I'm going to do it anyway. I think that's awesome, because I know a lot of people that are stuck in that doubt and fear cycle, and they're these little dark clouds, and I see so much potential in them, and that's what makes me sad. I'm like, you're so brilliant in these areas or these areas. Like, you could be doing science, you could be doing real research, you could make some breakthroughs, you could be saving animals. Like, whatever you do it. Like, you're gonna get judged. So love your own life and be passionate about it.
Exactly. And we're so worried about what others think and what others say, and it's just BS. We don't need that. It doesn't actually matter, because a lot of why other people judge you or say things to you is because they feel bad about themselves, and or they're not happy with something in their life. And so a lot of people aren't, because they feel bad about certain things in their life, they take that as like criticism. They allow it to hurt them, when really it's just coming from a place of like, oh, I don't like myself, I don't love myself, when I feel bad. And really, if you could just take the high road and love and show that person, compassion and empathy for wherever they're at, then that's ultimately kind of what they're saying. Like, I hate my life and nothing's good and I wish somebody or something would inspire me to do better. And we could do that, and you
Mm-hmm.
could do that or I could and it's like, but the other thing, it's like we all, I've had so many fears and I sometimes still do have fears, but I came from a place that was so dark and so lost and so confused and so just victimized. And slowly but surely, I just decided that that wasn't going to work for me. And I made that commitment, like we were just saying, that commitment to just, no matter what it takes, climb out of that hole and work on fixing everything that seems to be blocking my ability to feel good. And if I can do it, then, and get to a place where it's like, okay, now it's finally work. I haven't evolved. I'm not enlightened. But I'm getting tremendous results and they're mind blowing, really. It's not mind blowing. It's just like, okay, this stuff is real. But I committed to doing that. And if I can do it, if you can do it, then anybody can do it because none of us are really any that different from each other.
No, no, we all have tremendous potential. And I'm not saying that, any of us are enlightened or golden beings, or we all have work to do on ourselves. From my past, I grew up in a family that was very full of fear. My dad had some major heart problems when I was about 7 years old, and they've only really gotten worse since then. So he had a lot of fear based on all those things that happened to him. My mom had a lot of fear because she was worried she was going to lose her partner. And they both just kind of shut down. Like before that, they were very like stable, normal, and everything. But through that, like I couldn't internalize the fear, but they were teaching me the fear behaviors. And it took me a really long time to bust out of that and try to create my own identity, which didn't even happen until I was in like my mid 20s. I'm like, who
Mm,
am I really? Like, it was hard for me to form friends, to form relationships, to do anything that made me happy because I was trained, go to your safe job, get your safe money, save for your retirement, don't do anything crazy. Don't dye your hair blue, which is going to happen in a couple weeks here. Like, don't do anything individual. Just stay safe. And anybody that makes any kind of difference in the world doesn't stay safe. Like that's just how it is. Like if you want to make the world a better place, you have to be loud. You have to be yourself. Even if you want to make a difference in your neighborhood, you have to be loud. You have to have a voice. And even if not physically loud, live from the soul, live with heart. And if you live true to your values, people will still notice and they'll still use that as an example. Because if you're living a good life, if you are a good person, people are more inclined to be a good person around you. And they'll just kind of start being more of a good person in general. So it rubs off one way or another.
absolutely. It's leading by example, the classic, statement. That's what it is. But when we lead by example in whatever way that is appropriate for us to do based on the confidence in our own innate talents and abilities, then we in turn inspire others to do that. And that's one of the greatest beauties of this entire thing is that each and every one of us possess our own unique gifts, our own unique ability to express that which is within and without and beyond us in our own way. And when we discover what that is and how to access it and develop it, that's life, that's living, that's what it means to feel good and to love and to be. I mean, gosh, and guess what? Even with all the chaos going in the world, even with everything going on, it's even more of a reason to focus on this stuff if our lives are somewhat good or if we're not suffering or if we don't feel like crap or whatever. Like, this is the best time to focus on this stuff because that's when we get real results. We're not just trying to alleviate suffering in ourselves. We're literally becoming the architects of our own inner luminosity, you
Mm-hmm.
know? And that is what, when we shine, that's how we change this world. That's how we bring balance back into this world.
That's exactly it. And that's something that I want to address, especially right now, because anyone who's watched the news over the last few weeks, I hate to address it because it's a very negative thing, but you have to pay attention to it. The world is a more violent place. There's been a lot of attacks. There's been a lot of death. There's been a lot of suffering. And I think that being able to be that light, being able to still share joy and share love and, do good in the world in any small way, I think that's, I can't make it small. It's going to save the world. Like, that's the
It's
point,
paramount, right?
and showing that there is still love in the world to keep it from being a completely dark and dismal and fearful and death-filled and narrow-minded and terrible place. Like, if you can keep your own light on, I think it's going to do a lot of good.
It's, and what's the other option to that is to, be aware of all this stuff and, I'm going to go retreat and hide out in my cave,
Mm-hmm.
or really like internalize of like, oh, life sucks. This is terrible. People are evil, this and that. And then you become part of it.
You
You
become that.
literally take that on. And it's like, people don't get it. We don't have to do that. It doesn't matter how evil or dark or, whatever things are. If you allow that to influence you to the degree where you're not able to be aware of your own essence, the own source of your own human perception, then you're just feeding it. You're giving it more power over you and over this world. And anybody that doesn't believe so, they're probably stuck in it. You
Mm-hmm.
know,
It's hard to acknowledge from a place of darkness that you are capable of more light, you know, because when you're mired in it, you can't see past it. It's so enveloping, like that darkness, that the fear and the anger and the negativity, it overtakes you, and it can take a long time to bust out of, to be honest with you.
it can take a long time, absolutely. And there's like two, there's many different ways that it can happen, but from what I've seen, there's like two really major ways. One is somebody comes to it on their own. They've just been so beaten and battered and dragged through life that they make an inner declaration. They just suddenly like they tap into this little bit of strength that they have, and they're like, you know what, I'm going to overcome it. I'm going to come out of it no matter what it takes, and they do. But then there's other people who maybe they haven't gotten to that point, but they just happen to be in the presence of someone who has gotten to that point, and somebody who is coming from a selfless place, somebody who really does want them to feel better about themselves because they know that, how can I live in this world knowing that there's so much pain and suffering and trauma going on, and how can I feel good about all this inner light that I'm in the process of cultivating and developing? Of course I'm
Hmm.
going to continue to always feel good about it, but the natural extension and expression of that inner knowingness is to share it with others, because it's not just from a theoretical knowledge perspective, like, oh, we're all one and we're sharing it. You're actually experiencing your unified connection to other beings, to other things, sentient and animate and inanimate beings, and it's all there. And when you feel that, you want to bring this joy that really, truly does exist.
I did this amazing meditation the other day, and it was like it started out with opening doors in my mind, and it was great. And I just felt a lot of energy flowing through me. And I'm not naturally a runner, but I run because it's mindless. Like, it's an exercise that I can do without having to put any actual mental effort into it. I don't have to worry too much about form or rests or whatever. I just go and listen to music and do, and it's all right. But I was out running, and it was during one of my sprints. I did the same meditation while I was moving, and I felt so much connectedness. I felt so much energy and just connected to the trees, to the people in the houses, to the dogs that were barking at me. It was incredible, and I think that finding activities like that for other people is important. And it might not be running, it might not be any form of exercise, but exercise is motion, so it naturally brings more energy into the system. It could be painting. Like, a lot of people just turn off their conscious mind whenever they're painting, or cooking. Some people it's cooking or writing. It can be absolutely anything, but I think finding that, like some activity that turns on that connectedness for you. I think that's really important, and everybody needs it, because there's a lot of friends that I have who don't pursue their excited things, and they're just like, I'm just going to go to work and do my responsibilities, and at the end of the day I don't even have time to meditate, so I'm just going to clean some of the house, and I'm just going to go to bed, and and it's every day, and they burn out so fast, and then they crash, and then they're depressed for a couple of weeks, and then they go through the same cycle. And I'm like, what do you like to do? Are you doing what you like to do? Are you taking a break? Do you realize that you're a person?
You realize that you do have way more control than you're acknowledging for yourself, or giving yourself a responsibility to take?
Yeah. And it's their own brand of suffering. And I think in one way that can lead to the kind of aha moment where they realize that they're part of a connected universe. But I think that's the bad way, because you end up, it takes a long time, and it sucks. Like, it's a grinder to get there.
Literally. It's like it's just gnawing and gnashing and grinding and beating, and death, fire, pain, destruction to you, to your soul, to the way you feel.
Mm-hmm.
And if you do like what you just said, find a hobby, that's something that you're so used, to being stuck in the muck and mire of the day-to-day grind of life that you've forgotten what that is. Or maybe you don't know, but everybody in them has a proclivity towards something. We all have the ability to touch on some creative outlet, no matter what it may be. And it could be something that we did as a kid that we remembered, like running or jogging or drawing or painting or music or, anything, building sandcastles, like whatever. Everybody has different ideas, numbers, experiment. Like, everybody has different things that they really are inclined to do and that they enjoy doing, and that if they choose to engage in that, you said it, exactly what they do. They get beyond this normal perception of what we think our conscious minds are, and in doing that, we get out of that. And then suddenly we're in the flow of life itself. It's that simple. And the more we engage in that, the more we practice it, and the more proficient and the more adept and the more developed we become in that pursuit. And that's when we become empowered. That's when we become inspired. And that's when we realize, wow, I do have something really amazing in me to, even if I'm not sharing it with everybody on the planet, it's making me feel amazing. And that's the first step. And then, listen, when you're leading by example, it almost doesn't matter what you say or do or anything. You just emanate that. And people know it, because there is a part of us that isn't conscious of the greater reality that's going on, but it's still there, and we're still responding to it. And people just in turn respond to it. And I found a lot of people who will say negative things to me, and all these trolls online, and these people who bash stuff. In a lot of ways, these people are looking for something, even if they don't know it. Instead of like, oh, well, criticize this, and oh, you don't know this, and you don't. It's like, many of these people, when you actually take the time to communicate with them and kind of help them come to terms with, or point out maybe why they might be saying these things, or then you can see they really just want to get beyond that in many ways. They want to be loved. They just don't know how to express it.
Or to accept it. And I think that's a big thing too. And to everyone listening, and to everyone ever, you're allowed to feel amazing. You're allowed to be loved. You're allowed to have a great life. You are allowed. It's yours. It's yours by right. So choose to allow it. Because not allowing it, oh, I could have this great day at the beach, or I could sit in my apartment and just flip through channels. Which one is going to make you feel amazing? Because you're allowed to do either one.
Right.
So.
Right, exactly. It's funny, like some people always like, oh, when you talk about this, but like when you think about the origins of life, right? Like, what is like the kind of real like where did we kind of begin? Kind of like through the orgasm in a way, right? Like through this sexual expression. Each and every one of us are alive because of sex. Like, we're completely, and yes, when done in a good way, that feels very good. So if we come into this world by this feeling, even if it was only one person just having the feeling, whatever, then we're still a part of that somehow.
Mm-hmm. Oh, you cut out again. I don't know if you can hear
I
me.
feel like that. Yeah, cut
Hold
out.
on.
Gosh.
Wait. Okay, we're back. The
So
computer's
why?
having an orgasm.
Yes. It's so if we all came into the world from something that potentially is so miraculous feeling and so good feeling, then okay, maybe we don't have to live with that kind of intensity on a moment to moment basis, but why couldn't we? You know,
Yeah.
why can't we? And even if we just live with okay, life is a miracle. It's a complete miracle that I went from this little tiny swimmy tadpole thing, into somebody's egg and then developed into this body that I'm in. Hello, people. Like, is this not a complete miracle in action? So why not live from that place? And why not really revel in that and be grateful for the fact that we're alive because we are. And it is a miracle and it is amazing, unless there's this pessimistic view of, everything just a random coincidence and
You're born to suffer. Life is pain.
yeah, but it's like, or then people have this whole idea like there's nothing good in this world. There's no creative impulse. Everything is
So
just
make something good.
yeah, exactly. Like you're alive right now. Do you want to just accept that things could be, so what? Exactly. Who cares what we think we know about the world? Life is going on regardless. So why don't we construct our own way in this, no matter what we think it is, no matter how it's affected us? Why not?
Hmm. Yeah, you don't need somebody else's book to tell you what's good or what's right. Do good. Do things that are right. Like, make the world awesome. The world is beautiful, so make it more beautiful. Like, you choose to see what you want. That's
Right. And even where the world isn't beautiful, and where the world is really dark and painful, how are we going to make those places better? By complaining and crying and being, upset about our plush, comfy, Western civilized lives? No, no. We're gonna work with the systems that be the way they are right here,
mhm.
right now, to make them better. We're just gonna. What's the other option? To not do it?
Yeah, no thanks. I don't want to live in that world where I choose to do nothing. Because, like, I might be only one person, but I know the power that one person can have. Like, I can smile at one person and make their day better. And that's not me. That's not a just me thing. It's anyone can smile at a person and make their day better. You know, it's an amazing thing to just be able to have a nice conversation. Hey, how you doing? Hey, your hair looks fantastic. Hey, I'm glad you showed up today. Any positive step and meeting people's eyes and recognizing them as a real person and acknowledging that they matter, it goes a long way on an individual basis to help their lives, because sometimes you need some acknowledgement that you're important. Everyone needs that acknowledgement. Right now, it's a big problem in race relations in our country, and I've been going out of my way to make eye contact, to be comfortable, to be like, dude, this sucks. I'm sorry, this bullshit is happening.
It's so, I have friends of every race, color, religion,
Yeah.
and creed, and it's like, this whole thing of like viewing the world from the outside in and judging somebody for whatever we perceive them to be or not to be is such it's like a poison to our own soul, and that's what people don't realize. It's not like when you say something bad, you're criticizing somebody, you're hurting them or trying to you're actually not really hurting them nearly as much as you are yourself.
Yeah, because it does hurt them, but it hurts you way more.
Because that vacuum that you're already in is getting tighter. That's what's happening. And people, until we choose to come out of that, then it's just that vacuum constricts, right? Because
Hmm.
life is expanding. The universe is like life is expanding. The universe, as we know that, but most people really aren't. They're neutral or they're contracting. They're getting smaller.
Yeah,
So
as they age, their world gets smaller. They find the little things that they like and they stay in their tiny little bubble, and that bubble keeps getting smaller because that's their comfort zone. And instead of acknowledging the rest of the world around their comfort zone, they just kind of stay there.
You know what's funny too is those people, like, and I'm sure you've witnessed this a lot too. Like, some of these people who are really negative and hateful, like when they see somebody who's talking like we are and having this and saying that we want to acknowledge other people for not necessarily who they are, but what they are and the potential that that holds, they don't like that. They like I've encountered people who get really angry about it, like, you positive people suck and this and that. It's like,
Okay.
but what are you gonna do? Right, exactly. What are you gonna do? Get mad or get upset about it? Just
And to those people, I say, how can I make your life better? What can I do for you specifically? Like, what do you need? I will do my best, my personal best, to help
and
you
if we
improve your
can't do our best, then we tried and you're on your way. Go
right.
ahead.
Because I give a shit. Like,
Right.
sometimes I give too many shits, and it's exhausting. But that's how it is.
Yeah. Well, and then, right, there is a healthy degree of personal boundary that we do need to construct and put in place and maintain, because it's definitely a game of give and take, but ultimately it always comes back to us, as much as many of us who have had some kind of vision or some kind of inspiration or some kind of idea that we can improve the world, and as much as we want to go out and do that, we also have to realize that there's a balance point. In order to really be effective in transforming the world and making it a better place, we have to really, really be authentic and true to ourselves by taking the time out and developing the part of ourselves that then goes out and does that into the world. And a lot of people forget that because, yeah, we can have these breakthroughs out of nowhere, and then we're doing this, we're doing that, but then we get stuck in doing this and doing that, and we're in the world, and then then suddenly something goes a little bit off kilter, and we're like, oh yeah, that's right.
Like, wait.
I'm supposed to go back and kind of retreat for a little bit and relax and fix that. And they're like, no, I don't want to do it because that's work again. But yeah, it's that balance point, and it is the work. But as long as we keep doing that, then those breakthroughs happen, because it's in that develop.
Oh, wait, you cut out. Stop. Whatever you're doing. Go back.
Rest.
Go back. Go back. Go back.
Is it there now?
Yeah, I see you now.
It's in that development and rest that things grow, that our potential grows. And so that's the thing. It's finding that balance. It's doing it again.
It did a different thing. I can still hear you.
So, anyway.
Yeah.
It'll come back.
But yeah, I wanted to add, like, that growth process, some people just grow once. They grow from being a child to being a teenager and adult, and that's it. But that doesn't have to be it. Like, you can go back and you can revisit your issues, and you can have multiple growth processes through your life, like retreating for a couple of days, for a couple of weeks, when you need to regroup and refine who you are. That's a good thing. Like, it might be a scary thing when you are forced to revisit it. If you're fired from your job, if you lose a loved one, if you break up with someone, there's millions of different issues, and they suck. Not gonna lie, they suck. They're suffering. But when you go back and revisit how that affects you and what new things you can bring out of that, like who you're going to choose to become, it's like a rebirth, and you can regrow from that into whatever you choose. And I think it's just easier for people, that might be the wrong phrase, who are going through some type of terrible trauma, to bring out that new growth, because they've stripped something away during that process. Like, something was taken from them, like a core of them was just removed, so they have to find what else is going to fill that. And if you stay comfortable, if you don't open yourself up to that pain, maybe you just don't find the new things in yourself that are waiting to grow.
Very true, very true. And also, a lot of it is becoming super objective and scaling it back and wondering why we feel disempowered or traumatized or whatever in the first place. And, I think we've talked about this a little bit in some of the other episodes. It's really usually a very basic psychological or emotional process that happened to us at some point in our life that really affects us so deeply that we just have trouble getting beyond it, even if we don't know what it is.
Yeah.
So a lot of deep self-observation and paying particular attention to one's own patterns can reveal everything if you really wanted to. And, I think in the last episode we did, I said, I wrote out my entire life story just so I could try to look for the patterns that were keeping me in a prison of enslavement, of personal enslavement. And my God, it was like the patterns were so clear once I was able to just like get it out, get it.
So sorry guys, we had some technical difficulties, but we're back live now. I don't know what's going on with the internet, but it's how it is. Technology.
We'll let them deal with that.
Right.
We'll let the powers that be figure it out. And
but we're live now, so it's good. Yeah, I think we were getting into triggers for helping people to grow, to get out of their own fear spirals, because you were talking about how you wrote out your entire life story to find those patterns, and when you read through it, you're like, whoa, this is so super clear. So I don't think the internet likes us talking about patterns.
should we do?
I don't know. I'm going to keep talking about it because, I mean, I do a similar thing. Like, my pattern, it's not in the book yet. I'm sure it will be. But I get responsibility. Like, I take on responsibility. And I'm like, yeah, I can do these things. And I get super excited. And they're great projects. And then I just kind of disappear and I don't do anything with it for sometimes years. And people are like, so did you do my thing? I'm like, no. And it's lifelong. Like, it's kind of bad. So I've been working over the last couple weeks, couple months on being on top of the ball instead of letting the deadlines fly past my head and actually do the things. So.
Yeah, we're all always going to procrastinate to a greater or lesser degree, depending on what our workload is or what we have in front of us,
Yeah.
But it's in accepting that and realizing, and again, it all comes back to focusing on our own unique talents, our own unique abilities, and the things that we like and love to engage in. The more we do those things, the more it's like we kind of recharge our batteries. And the more we want to, keep going and keep doing and keep creating and,
Yep.
But if we don't recharge those batteries, then certainly the world isn't going to do it for us.
No. No. If given a choice, the world will drain your batteries dry.
Oh my God.
Like, don't be a cog in the wheel. Make your own machine. Recharge
Be the
yourself.
wheel.
Yeah.
Right.
You are the wheel. Be the wheel. One with the wheel.
Exactly. Well, back to this whole idea of kind of what we were talking about in the beginning, which is, a lot of people don't really focus on self-development until trauma happens or anything. When we really, really come to terms with that and we realize that our ability to really develop ourselves comes with taking the time to do it when things are okay, that's when we get the best results. So that's a lot of what we want to try to impart to people on this is like, don't wait for something to happen. Don't wait for an issue to come up where why am I suffering? Oh, help me. Find that thing you love. Engage in it, even if it's a little bit. Just, start to commit to it a little bit every day. Work on it. Keep working on it. Keep going. And as long as you persist, you will develop, and there's a lot of things that are seemingly in the way of our ability to evolve and grow and develop. But are we going to let those things get in our way, Like, look at how many people don't exercise or don't eat good or don't do anything. And, and then they get to this point and they feel like crap and they're like, oh.
How did this happen?
Yeah. You let it happen.
Thousands and thousands of tiny decisions led you to this place. So make thousands and thousands of good decisions and they'll lead you somewhere else.
And while it's right, exactly. The same habits and addictions and pathologies and things that lead us into this vacuum, this trap, it's that same process that works to degenerate us that also works to regenerate us and bring us out of it. So like it's the habit process, and it's like making a conscious decision to engage in thoughts, beliefs, behaviors, and actions that are in alignment both with the greater whole as it exists, but also that are in alignment with what you have the ability to do right here and right now. And when you do that and you take steps towards achieving that, you will get results. And that same habit process that gave you bad habits will be replaced with healthy, balanced habits. And then, okay, this is the thing. It's not like, okay, now I'm healthy and I feel good and I look good and great, now I can just go party again and get
Goal
back to
achieved.
whatever. Yeah. No,
No.
it's when you get to that place of like, okay, I feel great, I look great, I feel confident, I'm
You cut out again. So
I'm ready.
you feel
Yeah.
great, you look great. Then what?
When you get to that point where you have that level of self-confidence, there's always much bigger and better and more profound levels to take it to. Because when you feel really good and you feel imbalanced and you feel in tune with your body, you're able to sit longer. You're able to just relax with, I feel good, and then begin a much more comprehensive contemplation of the world around us.
Mm-hmm. And you're able to
And
get excited about things, like truly excited, because you have the energy.
you have the energy, and you know that whatever it is in you that is causing you to feel good is only the beginning of what that good feeling can be like. So then you just have to continue to develop that. And as good as you can make yourself feel is really only about that good compared to how good you have the potential to feel.
Mm-hmm.
What do I mean by that? What does that mean? Again, come back to it. It's like this miraculous orgasmic energy we're all responsible for coming into this world with. So it's that miracle of life. Of course, that's how it feels. That is the miracle of life in action. So we can live with that same zeal and excitement and feeling and engagement and just awe in the here and now. Again, it may not be sustainable to just walk around like that on, a moment to moment basis, but there is a way to both develop our expanded awareness of reality while at the same time grounding right in,
Mm-hmm.
so that they are balanced and so that it's not sustainable. And that's ultimately where all this stuff leads to. You can feel so good and so at peace and so just literally this feeling where the world doesn't get you down because there's something that you've worked so diligently to cultivate inside of you that is right there. It's rock solid and it feels so good, yet you're not bound to it. And you're transcending all the things that suck about this world. But at the same time, you're right in your body. You're in your human body. You feel it. You're aware of it. You're aware of how every single bit of your physical being functions in harmony with you. And then when you take all that,
You're going to have to hold on for
including,
1 second and back it up a couple of seconds.
see, that's the problem with this stuff. It's like it's hard. Like it just comes out.
Yep, and it's unpredictable when this glitch is going to happen. But it gives me a second to give everyone a tip. Baby steps. Tiny little steps. Like if you can adopt one new little habit and keep it up for a couple of weeks, then do one more tiny little habit, because that's how you're going to make real change. Like I'm the crazy person who will change like 6 huge different things, and most of them will stick because I am a crazy person. Most people can't do that. I like to have the big extreme changes because for me that's fun. That is not fun for most people. So tiny things, like if you're eating a standard American diet and you're used to having pizza or takeout or, microwave junk food or whatever you have for dinner and you know it's not healthy, have half of the amount of the junk food that you would normally have. And I'm calling it junk food. Some of it has a little nutrition in it, but you know what I mean. Like if you have pizza, instead of having 4 slices of pizza for dinner, have 2 slices of pizza and a big salad. Don't make it a big extreme thing because you still get the thing that satisfies you, but you're also getting better nutrition. If If you're trying to work on an art project, if you're like, wow, I haven't painted in 15 years, how do I get started? Set aside an hour or two every couple of days and just go to your little hermit room and you paint. And you know what? It's going to be crap. And you're going to paint again. And it's going to be a little bit less crap. And there's going to be a cycle. Some of it's going to be amazing. Some of it's going to be crap because it's art. And it's a cycle. But you keep doing it because you reignite that fuel. So little steps on whatever it is you want to develop. And that's how it's going to become truly part of your life again. Like, that's what's going to reignite you and bring that kind of passion and excitement back to your life.
Very well said. Absolutely. Very right on spot. And in a lot of ways, like what you just suggested, that's kind of the best way of doing it, because you don't have those extremes, those ups and downs that can really throw you off balance. Mm-hmm. You're working to climb step by step, even if it's one step forward, two steps back, or two steps forward, one step back. You're committing to do it, and eventually breakthroughs happen. Once you've done it enough, a breakthrough will happen. Then you're at a whole different plateau, a whole different level. And the more you continue to do that, the more you can eventually get to those things that I was talking about. Which...
Yep. And all of those things that you talked about, if you keep adopting tiny little habits, you will get there. It's you don't have a choice. Like, you will get there. That's where the path leads. That is the process. Because, like, you put in the work, you put in the dedication, you put in the energy, you put in the interest, you did it. So that's going to happen. Look forward to it. Like, remember that it's there when you're on that path and you're on the bad days of, well, I only had a small salad and I ate extra pizza. Remember it on the days of, wow, this painting looks atrocious, I'm going to paint over it. Like, they'll happen. And the next day, you do something different. I'm only going to have one slice of pizza and a salad and some steamed cauliflower, you know? This painting is really cool. I really like these shapes and colors. It happens. You will make that progress.
Absolutely. And, you know, just the realization that no matter what we achieve and no matter what we fulfill and no matter how great it is, there's always the potential to develop way beyond that. So it's not like this thing that we've reached it and then it's over. There's always going to be inspiration to keep going. So you don't ever have to worry about reaching a place where you feel like you've seen, heard, and done it all, because it doesn't happen. It doesn't exist. No one has seen, heard, and done it all. As far as the most developed and evolved of us have gotten, they will even tell you firsthand that they have no idea what the potential is. None of us do. But we know that it is unlimited.
Mm-hmm. And there's
just start what we have.
And there's no actual competition either, because no one can stop you from achieving what you can achieve. You know, I'm active in a lot of fitness groups, and there's bodybuilding competitions, and people are going on, you know, cutting diets, and like, yes, that's great. Don't let that discourage you from losing 15 or 20 pounds. Don't let that discourage you from feeling great in those pair of jeans. There are some amazing artists on the internet, digital artists, textile artists, you know, painters, any kind of media you can think of. And they're phenomenal, and they're different. They're not you. You have to do your art. You can be inspired by their art. You can admire their work. You can talk to them about their process. That's their work. Do your work.
You touched on a great point, actually, this whole thing with competition. It's like, there's definitely, of course, there's like definitely a degree of healthy competition, and that's not what we're talking about at all. We're talking about this competition that really kind of like, I'm better, look at me, you're never going to reach these results, and don't even try. And then, you know,
I can't do it.
And but that's another symptom of our culture that really deeply affects a lot of people. I know it affected me tremendously growing up, you know. They wanted me to play sports and do all this stuff, and I just wasn't very good at it. You know, I tried, I gave it my best, you know, I did what I thought they wanted me to, and I just couldn't produce, you know, and then I would
we paused again.
Back home and cry to my mom and dad that I couldn't do what they wanted me to do and felt bad about it, not realizing that I didn't have to do that. I didn't have to perform to anybody else's expectation. I only had to learn what it was that I was good at and what I loved, and then work on developing that. When I finally figured that out, it was like, oh, okay. there it is.
Yeah.
Now I feel good about something, and I don't care what anybody else thinks or says or does, because it's their problem.
Yep. Be better than yourself yesterday. Like, you are your only competition.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Yeah.
So yeah, good stuff. And I think we have some solid steps for our listeners too. So we've got this last one. Don't give in to the competition model, because you can have friends that push you. You can have people who are on a team with you, even if it's just a mental team of saying, you can do this better. Like, looking for constructive criticism is one thing. Giving into the perfectionism that other people might be like, oh, you're not the best at that. No, don't listen to that bullshit. Take small steps, itty bitty tiny bites, the tiniest, stupidest little steps you can take. Do anything to make progress. What are some other ones we've got?
Well, once you do that, surround yourself by others who inspire you to continue doing that, not ones who will drag you down and make you feel worse about yourself.
That's big.
That's huge. And if somebody isn't as good or better than you as far as inspiring you to be or do better, then maybe you don't really need to be around them at that point in your life, or maybe at any point in your life, but whatever, that's a personal thing, you know?
Right.
So then also realizing that whatever progress you make is really just the tip of the iceberg, and that you can always continue to make progress going down that. And because of that, that's a great reason to be inspired to keep going, because you can always outdo what you've already done. And that's what does it for me. You know, I've had some aha moments and things, and I'm like, oh, yes, I've made it, I've done this, and then being like, what more could I do? And then in that moment, maybe because I wasn't aware of what more I could do, you know, I just let it go and relax. But then the next day or the next few days or the next week, I realized there it was, like, oh my God,
that.
I could do so much more. And then we begin anew, you know,
It's a
that
great
regrowth that we were talking about.
And about connecting with people who inspire you and help push you, a lot of people don't have that in their personal life. They're not surrounded by these people at work or in their homes or in their communities. So it's kind of hard for them to connect and to continue to be continue to be inspired. Words, yes. Blah, 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 blah. So there are groups online that you can join. There's a site called meetup.com where you can possibly find people in your area who are of a similar mindset and who are pushing each other. There's communities that you can virtually meet online. There's groups on Facebook. I'm sure if you comment on these videos or connect with us, you know, we can get something going to help support people, because a lot of people need that. And it's tough to go through these processes alone. Like, if you don't have someone who's your cheerleader, who's an equal, someone who can keep you going, it's really, really important. And this is an easy path to fall off of. If you don't keep up with it, if you don't have that handhold, you might just get to a very short bit of progress and say, I don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah, and that's what you and I are doing this for. That's why we're here. That's why we're having these discussions. We are here because we want to do this for other people. And you also just said it is easy to fall off this path, but it's also a lot.
Oh no, we're glitchy again.
It's also a lot easier to stay on it when you have the right kind of support from individuals who really do care and who really do want you to become better, because they know that you are then going to go out and positively effectuate the world. Because those of us who do love life and who do care about it and care about others and appreciate nature and appreciate the world, we want other human beings to feel this and appreciate it and have reverence for it, because they're going to go out and in turn and inspire all the people around them who have been, you know, kind of bringing them down. Lead by example. Leaders unleashing leaders into the world.
Yes.
When you have, you know, 100 people in your community who feel like this, imagine what they can do in that community.
Oh my gosh.
When you have 1,000 people in, you know, your state who all think like this and act like this and do whatever, what can they do for the rest of the state?
Yeah.
Millions, the country, billions, the world. Like, come on, like, this is not rocket science at all. It's a natural, inherent function of our own human consciousness, and it's only employed by our individual choices and how we interact with our very life that we have right here and right now.
Yep.
And so, while it's easy to fall off, it can be, it's definitely simple, and it may not be easy, but it gets a lot easier to maintain.
You get momentum.
You get momentum. You really, really do. And if the beautiful thing, it's that snowball effect. If you stay on this, even if it takes days, weeks, months, years, 10 years, like as long as you stay on it, eventually that momentum is going to catch. You're going to hit that tipping point, and then you will become aware that you're being driven by something that is greater than you, that's beyond you, but that is also very much the essence of who you are.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Well, that's fantastic. And I really hope that our community gets in touch with us, because I'm happy to talk with people. You're happy to talk with people, and we can all inspire each other. And I think we've got a lot of great listeners, and, talk with us, talk with each other, because that's how momentum happens. So I believe that is it for today's show. And I can't wait to talk to you guys next week.
Absolutely. Thank you, everybody, for listening, and look forward to seeing you soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye.